Hello, and welcome back to the Marketing Brief. I am your host, Brian Aquan, and this is the podcast where we briefly touch on topics across the marketing landscape. As always, we're joined by an industry expert, and I'm joined by an old colleague and friend, Robert Brill, today from Brill Media. Robert, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me, Brian. This is awesome.
Yeah, we're excited to have you in. Robert, would you like to introduce yourself and Brill Media, kind of talk about what you've been working on?
Yeah, so Robert Brill, I've worked in advertising for 23 years, big agencies, mid-sized agencies, and been running my company for the last 13 years. Started off as a media buying firm, and we typically solve three key challenges. Need better ads, leads, sales. That could be a function of needing better media buying. But even with better media buying, you typically we see three common challenges. The media buying component, the message market match isn't there. So you're spending a lot of money to amplify the wrong message. So we solve for that. And then finally, it's really about warming up buyers to turn them into people who are willing to spend money with a company, whether it's, small, medium, or even massive amounts, $500,000, tens of millions of dollars. It all starts with great marketing.
Of course. You and I both came out of the media buying space. Obviously, you're still in it. I'm still in it in a certain sense. Here's where I'd like to start. I'm really interested in how targeting, and we'll see if you agree or not, but how targeting used to be a function of media. We did a lot of, remember At Plan, and we did a lot of stuff, a lot of work on how do you find your audience. And now that there's like three places you go to buy media, and mostly it's like Facebook telling you, hey, just give us your creative. We'll find your audience. We'll optimize it against you. Is that a change that you've seen, that you've been interested in? Maybe you could just talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, look, the reality is that media buying is incredibly commoditized.
Yes.
For several reasons. Number one, it's a lot easier to do today than it was when we started in the business. And even 7 years ago was more complex than it is today. So the platforms make it really easy to buy advertising, set it, run the campaigns, and optimize. Even with now, there are a lot of clients that say, Facebook is incredibly complex. And what's kind of ironic, just on a tangent, is that the complexity with Facebook is, there's still some complexity with the ad platform, but the complexity is just literally the logins and permissions. So many clients get locked out of their accounts or have like other email addresses. That is just a cardinal sin with these platforms. So it's the permissions issue that's actually a big challenge.
Interesting.
Once you get into learning how to buy Facebook ads, it's far simpler today than it was like 7 years ago. So theoretically, a person of moderate level intelligence could figure out how to buy advertising space. It's not particularly complex. So why do companies like mine even need to be here? There's a few reasons for that. Number one, the targeting on Facebook, and for a lot of cases, Google, not in every place on Google, but in a lot of places on Google, on Meta, on TikTok, the targeting is the creative. So you write an ad that speaks to a very specific audience. You show the visuals that show the audience achieving the transformation that they're looking for, and you essentially get pretty darn good targeting. That doesn't mean it's foolproof, but it's a lot easier to deploy. Still, in programmatic media, when you're buying on the trade desk, there's a lot more granularity on targeting. When you're buying Google search advertising, that's complex math as it were in relation to the general targeting in Meta and like TikTok and other channels. So really, anyone listening that wants to buy Facebook ads, go in, develop an ad that speaks directly to your customer. The path is train the algorithm, target age, gender, and location. Let the algorithm learn who your people are. Turn on Conversions API. So Conversions API is like, you tell Facebook which leads turn into customers or which buyers website visitors turn into customers and which don't. And then you populate that data back into Facebook or TikTok or Google or wherever, and it starts to learn who your best customers are.
Yeah. You stole my favorite line, which is the targeting is the creative. I was going to try to hit you with that and sound really profound, but you got to it before I did.
Sorry.
But no, completely agree with you there. And that's what I saw happen, is that media buying became commoditized. It used to be something that was really the science, and then we would say there's art to it as well. But yeah, now it's moved over to the creative development side. How have you seen, so now that is completely changing, right, with AI, and I think we found that, the best use of AI is not pumping out creative. I think we thought that right at the beginning, but it's like, oh, you could just make thousands of creative, and you're like, oh yeah, but it's not really good at that.
Yeah.
How have you seen creative now change now that it's become the targeting?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is that from a 10,000-foot view, you do need to pump out a lot of content. You're not creating volume. A Super Bowl spot every time you turn out new ads. And you need anywhere between 7 and 20 ads a month with variations on copy, big variations, not minor variations on creative. And really, like, every business needs to be a content production machine. Influencers, user-generated content, big brand glossy content, content that looks like it was shot by a 5-year-old, Post-it notes, ugly content, simple content, long copy, short copy, medium copy, copy that is provocative and copy that is not provocative. Basically, the way I think about like Meta in particular is every person falls into some category of preference. They like videos, they like images, they like long videos, they like short videos, whatever the case is. So your responsibility as a business owner is to say, I need to create enough variation in ads that is interesting to a whole variety of individuals. So the short copy is only going to be relevant for a certain group of people. And if you don't create long copy ads, then you're excluding a whole contingent of opportunity for you.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it comes down to the transformation you provide, and advertising by itself is not the thing. It's one of 5 steps that we deploy, but a successful advertising campaign really comes down to understanding the problems of the person you serve.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So where does the advertising sit in that kind of 5 points that you deploy? Is it the first thing? Are you driving awareness?
No. Advertising is, so if you take advertising as a standalone thing, it has several purposes in the purchase funnel. But the first step to great advertising is not to think about advertising, it's to think about your super consumer. So we have this sort of concept that there's 3 ways to think about people who can buy from you. There's the total addressable market, literally anyone who can possibly buy. Secondly, there's the ideal customer. The ideal customer, in a very simple definition, is someone who can extract the most value out of your company. Where we like to focus our marketing on is the super consumer. The super consumer is someone who will evangelize for your business, who will and say positive things and refer people, etc. It's people who will pay you what you're asking. They're not going to nickel and dime you. And the third step is, and this is the most important one, you love working with them. Mm-hmm. We work with a lot of professional services businesses, and so this is highly relevant, right? Because what you're basically saying is, I don't want to work with people who are going to drain my energy. I don't want to work with people who I think are bad people, or whatever the thing is that that qualifies the client under, I like working with them. They're a good human. One of ours is, you're just a good human being.
Yeah.
You're a bad human being, I don't want to work with you. You're a good human being, I want to work with you. If you're, a big services corporation and you have thousands or tens of thousands of clients, maybe it's not about the individual relationship, but it's the mission of the business. Our mission, whatever, you work with a bank, our mission is to turn 10 million lower class, struggling poverty people into the middle class by the year 2030. Like, if that's the mission, I'm not saying you have to exclude everyone else. Like, if you're a bank, you need the whales, you need the big people with big bank accounts who are going to, whatever. But the people who your super consumer fits your mission. So when we think about marketing, I'm not thinking about ads. I'm thinking about, who is your super consumer? What is unique about them? And what are their unique problems? And then I go in and say, what are the problems that you solve that are unique? Then your marketing falls into place, because you're going from talking to everyone and really having a hard time differentiating to saying, we're the best accountants for the trucking industry, because for 20 years, my dad was a trucker and I really understand that business. That takes you from a completely commoditized accounting firm that does taxes and bookkeeping on the random, QuickBooks and Xero and all those things, to your contingent of prospective customer. They know that you are for them and you stand for something. So that all of that falls into great creative on media buying. So when we start with media buying, we're really talking about all that other stuff first.
Yeah. And I love that you have this basis in that, because I call that foundational marketing, right? And I think there's always this rush to what's our Instagram ad, right? Like what, how do we get on social? What do we do? And you're doing that work. It almost sounds like it's like an inverted pyramid of like TAM, your total addressable market. Then you've got your ideal consumer profile. And then you get down to who are your you call them super consumers.
Yeah. I want to ignore everyone else. I just want to focus on the super consumer. Because when you focus on your super consumer, then you become differentiated. And ironically enough, you start to get a lot more opportunities presented to you. That doesn't, and by the way, no one is saying you can't work with people who are not your super consumer. Of course you can. It just creates more opportunities for the business.
Yeah. And it makes those tactics really easy, right? Where it's like, if you're starting from a tactic place of just like, I'm trying to figure out my Instagram ad, or I need a radio ad, it's hard. But the way you're going through it, you've identified these people who are going to be responsive. And then the tactics get really easy because you know exactly who your consumer is.
Exactly. It all falls into place when you know your super consumer.
Yep. I love it. The other thing I've been writing a lot about this year, consumer trends or consumer like insights, kind of what are consumers doing? I've identified them as like authenticity is important to them. Community is something they're seeking. Value is something that is ever present as they're making decisions. Are any of those things things that resonate with you in terms of consumer insights? Do you have anything else that you're kind of paying attention to right now?
It all comes back to the super consumer. I hate to do that, but it's like authenticity. I fully agree with you. Authenticity makes sense. Your job as a business is to tell the customer they have a problem in dozens and hundreds of different ways that makes you the inevitable solution for them. That can only live out of a place of authenticity and empathy. Like when the customer sees a message and they think, holy cow, he knows or she knows or they know my problem, and they're able to articulate it better than I was even to, like, holy cow, that just put everything into place for me. That's everything you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's about getting into the brain of the person and giving them an opportunity to say, yes, this person, this company understands my pain, and chances are they can probably solve it.
Yeah, I love that. And that comes from the imagery you use to the language you use. It really comes from an understanding place of, I understand the consumer, and now they're going to relate to this ad because I'm showing them that I understand them.
And it's not just the ad, it's social media. Like the challenge with a lot of social media, like there's this, framework, the levels of awareness. And when I started paying attention to this, it blew my mind how obvious some of these mistakes are. So level of awareness, the first level of awareness is unaware, which is the person doesn't realize that they have a problem that your business solves. Doesn't mean they don't have it, they just don't realize they have it. So a lot of social media content posting is for the unaware audience and the problem-aware audience, and then a minority in the way we look at the world, and then a minority of our social media posts are for people who are solution-aware. They know that there's a solution, they just don't know which company provides that solution. There's product-aware, which means they know of the company, and then there's most aware, they're ready to make a purchase. So the big mistake that a lot of companies make is they say, start now. Well, you can't start now if I don't know I have a problem, or schedule an appointment. For what? I don't have a problem that requires an appointment. So I think where a lot of businesses, big and small and everything in between, make mistakes is that they're speaking to the unaware audience who don't realize that they have a problem, but they're saying things that are only applicable to solution aware or most aware or product aware audiences. The next step in creating a more holistic and more effective marketing apparatus for a business is really breaking out the levels of awareness and having KPIs and metrics that speak to each level of awareness. That's when you can understand, right? When you say start now to a person who is at least solution aware, if not product aware or most aware, that's the right message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that resonates. I call that systems marketing. Like I think we've gone from campaign marketing to systems marketing, where you need to be ready for each one of those consumers with a message based on where they are in their life cycle with your brand or your service. So yeah. I totally dig that. I'm down.
You want business 6 months from now? Speak to the unaware. You want business tomorrow? Speak to the solution aware.
Yeah, and with different messages. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I always like to ask my podcast guests what's exciting them right now. It can either be in the world of media in your professional capacity or in your personal capacity, but what's something that you're excited about right now?
Can I give you like 3 things?
Sure.
Professionally, I'm super excited about AI. I think AI is killer. Like one of the things my team did, not developers, like one of our director of accounts, she built a Trello killer internally. So we canceled our Trello account. She built a Notion killer. So we don't have to pay Notion anymore. I'm building dashboards. It's far faster to build a dashboard in Claude for analysis than to do Excel analysis.
Wow.
Dramatically faster and more powerful at that and more impressive, frankly, and easier to read. So many benefits. I am building an AI CFO. I am creating, now I hate to say this, but I am creating content, visual content. But the thing about AI is that visual content and anything about AI is relevant. The quality of AI is exclusively determined on the input of AI. So AI slop is going to be AI slop because you're taking every general knowledge marketing thing and deploying it for your business. Not so good. If you have an opinion, you have a framework, then you refine it through AI, it becomes highly valuable. So I'm excited about AI. Nice. The second thing I'm excited about is the frickin' Dodgers. Holy cow. The big baddies. Shohei Ohtani. We have a once in a lifetime talent. I mean, literally a once in 100 years since Babe Ruth talent. Known worldwide. He's big in Japan. I think there's a song that was like that once. He's big in Japan. He's all over. And the Dodgers, our freaking Dodgers, back-to-back world champions, get him. I am thrilled. Does it ever get boring winning? Absolutely not. Because we went like 32 or 34 years of not winning and bankruptcies and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the last thing, most importantly, I'm excited about my family and my 7-year-old son. He has opinions about dinosaurs and Minecraft, and he plays with his friends, and it's absolutely glorious and wondrous and just beautiful to watch.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have an almost 6-year-old, and dinosaurs in Minecraft are totally top of the game right now. And he also loves the Dodgers, and I'm a Red Sox fan, but
Sorry.
It's hard to keep. We live in Los Angeles, and he sees Shohei Ohtani, and his teacher loves the Dodgers, so that's just what it's going to be.
You won't hold it against him.
No, he can like whoever he wants. Yeah, that's awesome. This has been great to catch up and to talk. Thanks for joining us. How do people get in touch with you if they want to use Brill Media?
Yeah, brillmedia.co. I recommend everyone go to strategy.brillmedia.co. A lot of the discussion points that we talked about here are talked about there. We've replaced Google presentations for like sales decks, and we just use that strategy.brillmedia.co. It has our pricing. Basically for a lot of companies, we just start with a $497 diagnostic and strategy. It's an interview, an audit, a framework, the highest leverage thing I can possibly do for a company.
That's awesome. And you've been at it for a while, so I know you're doing it well.
Well, thanks. It's it's a great time, and same to you. Like, you're a veteran at this point, and so we should be doing more together.
Absolutely. Well, it was great to have you on. Thanks for being a guest on the Marketing Brief podcast. I'm your host, Brian Aquan, and stay curious out there.